Mr. Gregg Berger. No dum-dum.
Oh, thank you. Oh, I mean, that was for Frank, I guess. So we're really happy to be here. By the way, this is the third leg of the trifecta of entertainment this morning, so thanks for sticking it out. Appreciate it.
All right, guys, like I said, we're going to be getting to you guys and your questions in just a few moments. So if you want to line up down this aisle, I will come down to this magic loud-making device in front of me. But first, Gregg, hi, how are you?
Hi. Welcome. Me Grimlock, me Dinobot leader, how are you?
Right out of the gate, you guys got that. No one had to ask you to order from a fast food menu.
When Wally Burr first told me, he said, I think I have good news. He said, are you able to maintain and sustain what you did in the audition? I said, well, I damn well better, because I got my eyes on the prize. And he said, great, they want you for Grimlock. So that was the beginning of the beginning. But just like any weightlifter or anybody who starts a workout program, if you're respectful to whatever resource it is, for me, my voice, you can ask it to do things that it might not have been equipped to do originally and find a way to maintain and sustain. If any of you are interested in the field, if you can't maintain and sustain what you present in an audition, don't present it, because you could be chosen, and if so, the given becomes maintaining and sustaining. By the way, I hope you were all at script reading yesterday. If not, Frank killed it. Actually, we all killed it, then it reanimated, and then we killed it again.
All right, so you've taken up the flaming sword several times in the past couple decades here.
Exactly.
You've played Grimlock in multiple animations, video games, so forth. How have you found the character different from project to project?
Well, first of all, being invited back into a franchise, let me take a quick side road, because when I teach, which I do, I'm able to tell students in the first class that you need to treat everything you do today as though someone decades from today might remember it fondly. You've got to bring your best game every time, all the time. But I'm also able to say I'm the beneficiary of having done that, and because I've just returned from Botcon, or I've just returned from the UK, or I've just returned from Australia and New Zealand. This character and the love of this character, these characters, has literally given me travel opportunities around the world, decades after the fact. That's just crazy, and it's empowering and humbling at the same time to go 9,000 miles and find lines of people waiting, anticipating your arrival. I don't take any of it for granted. And none of it is giveaway. You earn everything that you earn. So as the franchise has taken some twists and turns, most notably, for me, Fall of Cybertron, which had sort of a cinematic, dark, brooding, interesting storyline and arc within it. But other times too. I mean, I was gifted with a new brain. I walked into a session with my script in hand, and so how are we going to go there? But that's really what we're tasked with, is a collaboration between writer, artist, and talent to figure out a way to get from here to there. You wait for, you anticipate, you dream of having a character and an attachment to a character long enough to go through these twists and turns as they come up, and then find a way to make them honest and real and organic. And so that's the challenge. Matt Teacher, who was the game developer for Fall of Cybertron, said he was determined to have me in as Grimlock. He said what he didn't anticipate was that there was absolutely no resistance when he presented the idea, and they said, let's do that. So you know, it's all a gift. I've been gifted with all of these returns, and I'm not overly patting myself on the back, but I give my heart and soul to this franchise, this character, and geez, God, I love my work.
You're not the only one. So, Duckman, Garfield, Real Monsters, Men in Black, the animated series. Thank you. Who's that? Yeah.
Shoot them, Jay. Their brains are in their bottoms. You know where to aim.
So that series was ahead of its time. We were talking about this backstage. That was amazing. It was one of my favorites.
Again, to be entrusted with Agent K, that's crazy good. And those storylines were amazing. I feel like even after, I think it was 4 seasons, we ended on a cliffhanger. It felt like there was still more story to tell. Relationships were, the chemistry in the booth was ridiculous and amazing. So proud of that. Actually, so proud of most, I would say all of the work that I've turned in. I really try to make it my own. I'm a team player, and it's a really great feeling as an actor to be allowed to be in the sandbox with other people that you love and respect. Starting with the fact that I was the new kid on Transformers. I wasn't that long in this business, although I'd been on the road with shows for quite some time before, and I did a lot of episodic television and some feature film. But, you know, I felt like I was learning while I earned. I'm not underplaying my contribution, but I was in the presence of my heroes. Here's some, I told Frank backstage, here's some good Transformers and Garfield trivia. G1 Megatron, Frank Welker, and G1 Grimlock, me, are also the voices, current voices of Garfield and Odie on Garfield. So that should say something about vocal versatility and the fact that, you know, you can be whatever you decide you're going to be. I've been the voice of Odie since the very first network special on CBS, all the way through. And when we lost Lorenzo Music, may he rest in peace, Frank made it his own, and so I still see Mr. Welker, my buddy, my pal, all the time for that. And it's a buddy comedy, like all of the great buddy comedy teams from the beginning on. We actually did but one of the buddies doesn't speak. He barks and growls and licks and slurps and emotes. They'll write a half page of dialogue and just say, go, and then they'll cut it in as they do. But, so anyway, that definitely makes the point about your vocal versatility should you decide to pursue this as a career. You don't have to have a million voices. Lorenzo Music essentially works from a very small core, all generic to him. You know, you can be a one-trick pony, but it better be a really good trick.
So you talk about being that new kid back in the day in the 80s. You've done so much between animations, video games, and so forth since then. How have you found that the industry itself, the process of voiceovers from, say, the early to mid-80s, has changed with technology and just in general?
The overall and overarching change is, and this is budget driven, but in interactive gaming, which I do a lot of as well, it's almost necessitated. Halo Wars was recorded ensemble. It's one of the really notable exceptions because in the day, you had to be able to play well with others. Now, so much acting is done essentially in a vacuum because by necessity or by convenience, if they record one character at a time and then assemble it as a jigsaw puzzle, that's the editor's nightmare. The relationship becomes incredibly more intense between you and the director because it falls to the director on the other side of the glass and the writers and producers and all the people on the other side of the glass to paint you into that scene or scenery so that the emotional intensity is consistent, so that the dialogue flows and makes sense together. So that's the new tech reality, and it's also the new tech obstacle. I'm looking for the right word. Because you have to fill in a lot of the blanks yourself. It's almost like you have to channel what's being fed to you because you're not in the presence of the other people that you're working with. So as an actor, I'd rather play in the sandbox with other actors. I think that energy is contagious. If it's a comedy, the comedy is contagious. If it's epic, it becomes more epic. There's more at stake when you're actually working with other people. But you need now, if you're entering the field, to be able to supply so much of that for yourself and keep it alive and keep it energized, even though you're alone in the booth. I mean, it's a major shift, big change.
There you have it. So, you guys have any questions? Please get up, come on down here. I'll bring you the mic, make you a little bit louder than you normally are. So, while you guys start queuing up, I just have one more question for you, Greg.
Yeah.
Clearly, you are one of those multi-talented, multi-voiced guys. You've done birds on sitcoms that you guys probably don't even realize, right?
I was Niles Crane's cockatoo on Berger for 2 seasons. Overhears all of the building gossip in Niles' exclusive, whatever that building was, based on the Dakota in New York. Oh, he was in the Montana, I think. But he overhears all of the building gossip because Fraser and Niles never stop gossiping, and then starts talking about it at the weirdest times. Harold's alleged, Peter's alleged, Stephanie's horny. In the middle of a dinner party. And they're all sitting at the table, of course.
I like Transformers too, but he's Niles Cockatoo. It's really fun.
And I apparently play foul-mouthed birds very well. I'm a parrot on Hot in Cleveland also. Recurring parrot.
So the question there, all these characters and birds, which is the most fun outside of the leader of the Dinobots to do?
It's a stacked deck. If you really give yourself to your work, and I know you do, Frank, they're just impossible choices because you love everything for different reasons. Of course, you know, the longer I'm attached to a character, and then should the character become iconic, like Grimlock, like Long Haul, like Skyfire, like Outback, you have more of yourself invested in it, so of course it stays close to your heart. The Garfield franchise, besides Odie, I now just Squeak the Mouse, and Harry the Alley Cat, and Herman the Mailman. So I've got so much of me invested in that show for so long. It's near and dear. It's like being a member of different families because they all have their own chemistries. Many of them have their own dysfunction as well. But I easily attach. So it's a stacked deck. I can't answer the question. I love them all so much.
I feel like I just asked you to choose between children.
That's it.
Gosh, this is just a treat for me being up here. All right, guys, it's your turn.
Hey, Mike. I try to remember everybody's name, but I have pretty high turnover in people as I've been able to travel to shows.
I'm Mike from Pittsburgh. We know each other.
Full disclosure.
Yeah.
And we're both affiliates of NBC, and
One of my favorite stories you tell is the time that you first met Mel Blanc. I was wondering if you could recount that for us.
I hope everyone knows the late, great Mel Blanc. Thanks for that's my pleasure. I've told this story many times, and I probably will many more. This was again relatively early for me. Wally Berg put me on the map with The Littles, which was essentially my neutral voice, and then he saw me on stage in Los Angeles in a play where I was jumping in and out of character, and he said, I had no idea, I'm going to consider you for many more things, and G.I. Joe and Transformers. He thought of me so often, and so many things turned out. Around that same time, I had also been seen in this play in Los Angeles by Gordon Hunt, who was doing all of the voice direction at Hanna-Barbera. I'm getting there. And I got called in. He introduced me as one of the new kids. He said, I saw this guy on stage. He's so versatile. He just said, please welcome him. I think you're going to be seeing a lot of him. So that alone was like, I could die happy right now. But I didn't. And he had me back shortly after that for an episode of The Jetsons. It was actually The New Jetsons at that time. He called me aside before we all sat down. He said, I'm seating you next to Mel Blanc. He said, it's not an accident. He said, you're here because you're supposed to be. I'm not throwing you a bone. Get on in there and introduce yourself and do what you do. So I did, and I did, and I did, and the session was going swimmingly.
I played Curly Quasar. I had a blind date with Judy Jackson. It was pretty cool.
During the session, Mel, who was not in his younger years at that time, but still spectacular, fell asleep during the session. He needed the rest, so that's cool. And Gordon Hunt was trying, it was his line, Gordon Hunt was trying to rouse him from the booth, and he jumped and said, Mel, I think it was the third time, Mel! And I saw, and will never forget, because it's part of my real life, and this actually happened, Mel Blanc wake up out of sound sleep as Mr. Spacely. And he went, Jetson! I should take that with me for the rest of the Thanks, Mike.
Thank you for that question. That's a treat. How you doing? Very good. Hi.
Hey, Colin. I'm not going to be able to say everybody's name.
So you were in the Dark Spark video game as Grimlock, but you also played Transformers 4 Lockdown.
Lockdown.
Can you tell us how that came about?
Reading, like anything else, I have a little skeletal studio set up at home. That was one of those that came down the pike, and they asked me to read for it like anything else. And if I remember, the lockdown for the game was sort of self-centered and a higher tier than most of the people that he had to endure. Yeah. It's not. And I submitted, and they said they want you in at least for roars and grunts and growls as Grimlock, and they picked you for Lockdown also. So anytime you're handed anything, you wanna beat your brains out, just trying to make it the best it can be. So it was audition, chosen, make it your own, and make it the best it can be.
Thank you.
Cool.
Mr. Berger with Michael Hall.
Hey.
I've asked you a couple times to say.
How you doing?
Hey, I have a question for you regarding your G1 work. Could you share any stories working with the late Chris Latta, or any personal experiences you had?
Yeah, we were great friends. I don't know if you know, he was a hell of an actor on camera. He was a hell of a stand-up on stage. And boy, what he would give out in the booth. I think he was one of those people. I always thought Tommy Lee Jones was like this. I thought if they didn't have their craft to pour all of this excess energy into, who knows what they might have been or become or whatever. But you can't bottle that intensity, and he was a dynamo, and he was also a creative dynamo. But he would work so hard that you'd half expect him to pass out in the middle of a take. He put it all into his work, all of it. And I knew him in the studio and outside of the studio. I just think he was a great gift to the franchise, but also to the entire audience and all of us. And when I said, I was kind of learning while I earned, I think I think I learned a lot about energizing a character and investing yourself in a character just watching him work. And he did it organically and instinctively. So yeah, bravo, Chris, and may you rest in peace. I'm getting tired of saying goodbye to people, I'll tell you that. It's a diminishing starting lineup.
Very much.
My pleasure.
Hey, I'm Bill from Pittsburgh.
Hi, Bill.
Just want to thank you before I say anything else for being in everything I watched when I was a kid and making everything I watched awesome.
Well, I knew you were there and I didn't want to miss it. So, it was from me to you. There really was no other, that was the driving force. I'm very happy, and when I say it's my pleasure, it's my pleasure. It really is.
So my question is this, considering more recent roles, I loved you as Jack in Final Fantasy X. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, somebody had to teach that kid to play blitzball. Another awesome franchise, very anime in feel, and a really intense father-son relationship, which I can personalize and relate to, but stacked with talent and talented people. Like doing the Clone Wars, it's one of those franchises, shows, where you just, it's total concentration. There's always a lot. The more that there is at stake in anything, the easier it is to become memorable and compelling because you get so attached to it. But then when it recurred and you'd see him in flashback, it became sort of an integral part of the storyline itself. So yeah, I mean, super proud of it and proud of the work. I love the look of that game. It's very distinctive. I also got to do Eeyore in Kingdom Hearts. I do Eeyore in a lot of things. There's 3 of us right now who do Eeyore for Disney. I do it. Peter Cullen, of course, does it. And now an animator for Pixar named Bud Lucky does it. Lucky. I put them both in the same category because they have that sort of really dreamy anime feel to them, and I really love the look of it. And I think the goal, whether it's artistically stylized or vocally stylized, whatever it is, you know, the hope is that it will become memorable, that it will be memorable. So yeah, I mean, I was very fortunate to get it, and I love having it.
Thank you very much, you really are the king.
Thanks, man. Me no kisser, me king. Me no nice dino.
Hi, I'm Joe.
Hi. Nice Batman, man.
Have you ever did a G.I. Joe episode?
I love G.I. Joe. I was Spirit. Spirit actually encapsulates my own worldview. Spirit says, possibility and impossibility are states of mind. In my mind, there is only the possible, that which can be done. And Keone Young, Storm Shadow, and I are still great friends. The other thing about these shows that go back is that it gave birth to so many careers that are still thriving, mine included. And I'm still friends with all these guys. We don't let each other go because we sort of came up together. I was also Cutter, who was always off to the island of no return. Ripcord was like jumping out of planes, of course. And Firefly, like to blow stuff up.
I want to know, what would it sound like if Grandma met one of the G.I. Joes?
Something like this. Me much metal! And fade.
Oh, you guys are all here for that. Tweet about it. All right.
Hi, I'm Lachlan. It's great to see you.
Howdy, howdy.
What was it like to work with Lorenzo Music? What was he like in the studio, the sort of back and forth that you guys had together? I bet you got some great stories.
I used him as an example of one voice that's the one voice. Everything about him was memorable. We were, again, you know, I made a point of becoming friends with people in and out of the studio. Lorenzo was an eccentric and a bohemian and just an artistic soul. We were good friends. I saw him very shortly before he passed away. Mark Evanier, who writes the Garfield show and wrote Garfield and Friends, a lot of Garfield and Friends and a lot of the Garfield show, was with me, so we had that wonderful opportunity. But he really was the one and only. He was not like a huge person, but you don't need to be a huge person to be huge. He just he really owned all of that vocal stuff that was his and his alone. You know, he was a television producer before he was ever a voice talent. He sort of became the voice of Carlton, your doorman, in Rhoda, which he was one of the main producers and writers on. And that voice, which is his voice, which, you know, he has his thumbprint all over it, is what evolved into the voice of Garfield. It's a really cool dude, just great people.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Yeah. He was a folk singer too. He and his wife used to had an act as what was it called? And I don't know, whatever it was, they used to appear, and I think they were involved with Smothers Brothers show. He has had a long, checkered, wonderful career in television before the Garfield stuff and Ghostbusters.
Hi, I'm Anthony.
Hi, Anthony.
I was on way back in the original cartoon. For the first 2 seasons, you know, Grimlock was awesome. He saved the day how many times? Then in the
12.
Yeah. And then in the 3rd season, he was comic relief, basically. Did that annoy you at all?
I tried to like hit on this at the beginning because this question comes up quite a bit. My goal is to open the script, make it my own, and figure, holy cow, how do I work this into everything that pre-existed? My goal was to keep it consistent and still let it go wherever they had it go, hopefully successfully, but as much as it caught me by surprise, I just sort of, that's kind of the challenge, that's part of what I love about it. When the surprises come, I don't do, my character wouldn't say that, I just try to make it true that my character does say that, and then the rest is my homework to keep it consistent and organic. That's one of the joys for me.
All right, thanks.
Cool, thanks.
My name's Eddie. Real quick comment, Men in Black, the animated series is fantastic. So.
Thank you, but you still can't drive the LTD, sorry.
Fair enough.
Nobody drives it than me. Okay, you can drive, well, no, get out of the car.
Fair enough.
I thought it was very well written, and some of those stories in 22 minutes were good enough and rich enough and deep enough that I thought they could have made an animated feature that would have just been spectacular.
Or much better than the last 2 movies. Anyway, as a teacher, how would you teach your students to audition and make their audition for any type of project stand out above everybody else?
There's not enough time in any panel to really teach that, and there are things that are teachable and there are things that are unteachable. But everybody that I go one-on-one with as far as teaching, I want everyone to know that they are the one and only them. I believe, and I'm encapsulating, but I think that the biggest part of what you do is who you are. The truth that you bring to a character, as you let the character bring its truth to you, is generic to your worldview. You got to be able to put the pieces together. And then, in an audition process, the other thing that I'm really strong on is that you want to be prepared, but you don't want to be over-prepared. You want to surprise yourself when you step into an audition situation. You want to know what you're going to bring, but you don't want to lock down how you're going to bring it, because sometimes sometimes there are wonderful surprises in auditions. The producers and the director and the writer don't know it, but you surprise yourself as well. So that's a really great way to walk out of an audition. And when it happens, it's like hitting a tennis ball in the sweet spot of the racket. It's just like, whoa, that was so cool. Thank you. My pleasure.
Hi, my name is Patrick.
Hey, Patrick.
This is going to go a little off the board from all the other questions. Many, many years ago, my stepfather and I had a little hard time bonding. He introduced me to a whole new genre of films, B films.
Mm-hmm.
And the first one he ever introduced me to was Attack of the Killer Tomatoes.
Yeah, man.
Okay. How did you go into the audition for that film?
I was actually, it was a longer scene than what wound up being in the movie. It was one of the first things I had done on film out here. I was touring with a show, a play, and the last stop on the tour was San Diego. I was, at that point in my career, I was choosing between LA and New York. I knew I was going somewhere. I'm from St. Louis. My first stop out had been Chicago, and I did very well there, but you know, there's a combination of naivete and optimism that you want to take with you in your career, because it makes you seek a larger audience if there is one. If there isn't one, then you find some place that's in your comfort zone. Anyway, there I am in San Diego, and I became aware that there were auditions going on, open auditions for local casting for this film that was coming. Also, in the same time period, another film was shooting there, and I'm in the stuntman also. This all came out of side research on my part while I was in San Diego. If I'm in a place, I want to find out everything that might be available in that place. So Attack of the Killer Tomatoes was this very innovative writer-director, crazy concept, which he explained crazily. He read me for like 4 or 5 roles. I wound up being subservient to some, I was military, but they were reading a map, and it's shell map as they pan back, and he says, well, what are these yellow dots? And I say, that's the line of advance. And what are these blue dots? That's the line of food and drink. What are these red dots? Those are the tomatoes themselves, sir. Because it's a mock disaster movie. Not so mock. Tomato is a daunting adversary.
It was a great film.
Especially a killer tomato.
My stepfather said to me when we first started watching this is based on actual events.
When they finally pull back, he says, what are these shell-shaped? I said, well, those are shell stations, sir. And it's a map from a shell station. My pleasure. Wow, that's a happy memory.
Hi, my name's Ashton, and
How you doing, Ashton?
my question is, which would you say is your favorite or the best incarnation of Grimlock, and why?
Wow. There's some really epic changes. Having a character like that, who's gifted with a new brain and trying to figure out where that takes him, and then he gives that brain to Computron, for the Technobots, that's a really cool storyline. The Fire in the Sky arc for Skyfire is ridiculous. It's kind of a morality tale and the moral dilemma as to, you know, what his motivations are, so that's really absorbing. Plus he's 200 feet tall. I really loved where Fall of Cybertron went, because it was so absorbing, and they created a different set of obstacles to Grimlock's speech pattern, but they justified it. So I'm not trying to dodge your question, it's just there have been so many sort of really interesting acting dilemmas, but also character dilemmas. I love them all. White boy hit my nose! Hey!
Yeah, I actually have the same opinion then.
Oh, cool, that's great.
Hi, I'm Olivia.
Hi, Olivia.
Was it hard to come up with the voice of Grimlock?
Well, when they had the original auditions, and this was a while back, I don't know if you saw David Cage, but one of his characters, he uses that. When I saw essentially the breakdown had something about, you know, bigger muscles, smaller brain, so that was very helpful. Everything that the writers give you is very helpful, and everything the artist gives you is very helpful. Ultimately, you're going to stir it all around with your own creativity and see what comes up. But the reason I mentioned that facial stuff is when I did the original audition, because his jaw was so tightly hinged, I remember actually doing this in the booth. One of the beauties of voiceover work is that nobody can see you except the other people in the booth or in the studio. So for a while I did this, and then I realized I had a little more flexibility even than that. And then I just kept going on from there, and then it went through its twists and changes, and boom, you got Grimlock. Plus, he has the advantage of knowing he's king. I did this in a panel with Peter Cullen a while ago and just cracked him up, because I said Grimlock's motivation is basically, ready, fire, aim! So it kind of makes Optimus the best to lead, because he has a measured response to chaos, where Grimlock just wants to tail swipe and get this thing over with.
Thank you.
My pleasure, thanks, great question.
Hi, I'm Patrick.
Patrick.
I want to say thank you very much for being here.
Yes,
This is
ma'am.
my second Botcon. This was her first. And I wanted to know what it was like working with Scatman Brothers and any funny stories that you could share.
A dream. I mean, you've all seen that beautiful face on film, which not only does he have eyes that just could light up a room when he steps into it, just sparkle, but that's a face that has seen a lot of life, and you know it. And he came out smiling, not only smiling, but just joyous. He was, may he rest in peace, just this joyous spirit. And occasionally he'd bring his ukulele to sessions, and we would be outside the studio, and he'd be holding court, and and Wally would say, everybody in, it's time to record. And it was like, oh, do we have to come in already? We want to play a little more. It was just so nice to be in his presence. It's like you were in his light. He really was an amazingly unique and singular talented person. Beautiful soul, beautiful spirit.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
All right, so somebody's got to draw Jazz playing the ukulele with all the other G1 around now. Commission that.
Hi again, it's Victoria.
Hi.
So, this is kind of two-parter. You saw Age of Extinction, right?
Yeah.
So what was your impression of the Grimlock that they did for that?
Well, aside from Optimus mistaking him for a horse,
Good night, everybody.
No actors were hired in the making of Age of Extinction Grimlock. It's all synthesized roars and squeals and sounds. I think a lot of the audience was waiting to hear something which never came. But it goes where it goes. This is like other incarnations. It's like Beast Wars is to G1. They're separate and distinct. The features are separate and distinct, but they're all under this beautiful roof that is Transformers. I do think on screen they have accomplished eye candy, for lack of a better word, that is compelling and incredible. But my feeling as an audience and an actor, this is a general impression, is that I respond to things that are story-driven and character-driven. And I think the 86 feature film with Judd Nelson and I is a perfect example of a character-driven film about robots. I guess I would, Grimlock has been introduced, the Dinobots have been introduced, so that's wonderful, but I think most of the audience that I've heard from wanted more from them, or something to develop their characters instead of just introducing their characters.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's best. That's right.
I'm Gregg.
Hi.
First of all, did you see those little stuffed Dinobots they had out on the sales floor?
Yes,
Oh,
I think they're Shirley Chung creations.
Yeah, I love the
Beautiful.
whole set. They're so adorable.
Okay, so it's the nature of the business. Eventually, a character.
But do they kick butt? They are adorable. I love them.
Oh yeah. Eventually, any character is going to be played by more than one actor. So, how does it feel when you play a character and then you see someone else's take on it? Like, for instance, you played Wilson Fisk in Kingpin before.
Yes.
So, were you watching the new Daredevil series and watching Vincent D'Onofrio and thinking, you know, oh man, I could have thought of that, or oh man, I could have done that better?
Well, when I'm in the Spider-Man the animated series, I had the great good fortune of playing Kraven the Hunter, and also Mysterio, Quentin Beck, master of special effects and treachery. But for Spider-Man Web of Shadows, I was allowed to play Wilson Fisk, the Kingpin. But when I was doing Spider-Man the animated series, Roscoe Lee Brown was Kingpin and was spectacular. So I didn't see Vincent D'Onofrio, but I've been the guy who came in and did something that someone else had done, and I've been the guy who someone else did their take on. So hopefully in the long run it's all a balance and it happens for you as many times as it happens to you, but nobody knows. You know, it's all, here's the bottom line answer is, there are things that are within your control and things that are outside your control. So you try to give everything you've got to the things that are within your control and be accepting of the things that are outside your control. So that was all decided by other people, other places. I bet it was great.
It's on Netflix.
Thanks.
Hi, my name is Jeff, and
hey.
I have two hopefully quick questions. I don't know if I should do.
Let's find out.
So the start the clock. First one is the voice that you do for Grimlock sounds very painful to do. Is it painful, and can you not do it for a long time? Or?
I don't know if you heard, if you were at the beginning of this panel, but I was talking about maintaining and sustaining, and
yes.
I basically put myself into my own voice gym as soon as I was aware that I was going to be doing this and taking it along for the long ride. So I'm a stronger actor, I'm a stronger voice performer because I found a way to fit that into my wheelhouse, and I can do it all day long. And I know what I do to protect, and I know what I do. I put myself in the category of leave it all in the studio. So I don't hold anything back, but there are also ways that I protect myself between sessions. And every voice actor knows this, and it doesn't have to be the same technique for any two people, but you have to have some self-preservation technique, you know, and maybe you're not the loudest one at the party, but you're saving it for where it's needed most. So that's my answer to that. I've found a way to make it doable and sustainable and maintainable.
Yeah. The other question was, do you typically watch more or less every episode of every show that you do, or you just now and then catch something?
I would say I'm more in the now and then catch, but if I know something is going to be on, I'll make a point of watching that. If not so much to take a bath in my own ego, but I want to see how all the elements work together. I want to see that it all makes sense. I want to see that the story that is trying to be told is told well. So I just sit back and really become an audience for my own work. I'm not micromanaging and like dissecting my performance. I just want to enjoy the show. I just want to be told a story. That's all I've ever wanted as an audience. And when somebody is successful at doing that, I'm their biggest fan. And when something falls short of being a good story well told, you know, then that's not a fulfilling experience for me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I gave you some pictures.
Hi. Wow, thank you. These are a treasure. You sure you want to part with these?
Yeah.
This is beautiful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Stop by the table later.
Okay.
Can you hold up that question, Grimlock? Because anyone who hasn't seen them should. That's a vendor named Shirley Chung-O who's on the floor, and they're spectacular. Thank you. I really value this and appreciate it, and I will keep it. What happened?
That's not mine, that's a friend.
Oh. Well, apparently there's a knockoff. Security.
Oh, it's called third party, I think.
Oh, sorry.
Hi, Shirley. I was trying to market for you. Because you're that good.
I'm hiding.
Okay, bye-bye. Shirley's not here anymore. Over there. She's not over there.
Okay, first off, hello, Greg.
Hi, how are you?
Okay, first of all, this question is from my mom, okay? And,
Hi, Mom.
Like, oh, there she's pretty.
Hi, Mom.
Don't worry, she's pretty. She wants to ask, how do you maintain your voice or your throat after so many voices over the years? How do you maintain it? Like, keep it healthy?
What I was saying about saving it for when it's needed is actual point of fact. And, you know, I love being a blabbermouth. It's part of what, I think it's on my resume somewhere. I used to do vocal exercises. I feel at this point, honestly, like the violinist who can just pick up the violin and play. I really have a sense of this as my instrument, and I'm protective of it, but not in ways that show. I used to do very specific exercises. I have a sensational ear, nose, and throat person in Los Angeles should anything ever start to go off. It's really important, and as far as I know, every voice actor in Los Angeles goes to the same person. You just stay protective when it's not on the line, so that you don't find yourself so in need that you can't do your work. Interactive games are tonsil burners like you can't believe. Because they're interactive, there's there's a seemingly infinite number of outcomes for most actions. But for a lot of characters, that involves falling off of cliffs and being set on fire and being shot with arrows and you know, all of these things that we've seen. Or if it's Call of Duty, you never stop screaming. And you just need to know that going in, but some of those sessions you really can't prepare for, and you just hope you don't have...
Squeak the mouse the next day because he sounds like Squeak the mouse. You know.
It's not the same thing. It's like an instrument, and when you have played it, there's a book called Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell that says anyone is 10,000 hours of dedicated practice and work away from mastery of anything. But I think I've kind of had my 10,000 hours. So now I don't even think about the things that I know I need to do to protect myself. I just do them. They're part of who I am. Thanks.
You're extremely lucky for that.
Thanks.
That was my favorite answer of the weekend.
Hi, I'm Alan, and my question is, those of us lucky enough to be born in the early 70s and grow up in the early 80s,
welcome aboard.
Yeah, we had lots of like Saturday morning cartoons like Pound Puppies and Littles and stuff, and even in the early 80s there was cartoon syndication, so there's tons of stuff on, but nowadays it's all gone. So, I know video games and stuff like that, what sustains a voice actor in a world where all the cartoons have disappeared?
Career-wise?
Well, what are all these young children to do without Saturday morning cartoons? It's all just like wrestling.
Well, for those who want it, there's Boomerang and there's Nicktoons, and there's, you know, product is still findable. A more kinder, gentler product is still findable. The Garfield show is going with the same formula we've always used, just like the Seinfeld show. It's not really a show about anything, it's just wonderfully chemistry connected characters who just, whatever happens, happens. It's very gentle, but still double-tiered humor show. There's smart jokes, and then there's obvious jokes. It's just fun on many levels. And I think most writing goes like a pendulum, and I think it'll find its way back there. It's like reality TV. If people stop watching, it all goes away. If people keep watching, it stays around. Story-driven shows, I know, or I suspect that an audience craves those, even if it's secretly craving. You want somebody to tell you a story. So I think writing will find its way back there. Some writing is still there, some writing never went away, and those are the shows you go look for. But there's a lot of very abrasive animation styling now where it's kind of a million things are happening, but not necessarily within a story context.
And one last thing, can you do Orson for him?
Orson Pig?
Yeah.
From U.S. Acres?
Yeah.
Who says, Wade, you're afraid of everything made? I've never seen anything like it. You're afraid of the water, afraid of the dark, afraid of the nighttime too, the sun and the shade. I'm really afraid, Wade, what do we do with you?
No, I'm sorry, I can't do that.
All right, we got time for one more question, but I'm going to try to fit all three of you in. So let's try to make this happen.
Hi, I'm Joshua. What would it be like if Craven the Hunter was trying to hunt Grimlock, and Grimlock was just, because the human doesn't want to like kill him, but just kind of like go away, you know? What would that be like?
Well, as a hunter, my overwhelming desire is to hunt the most dangerous prey, which is man. This Grimlock you speak of is not a man, right? He munch metal, he tail swipe, he think he king. I hunt him, he's hunted. I catch him, he's me Grimlock still king. Me tail swipe Craven.
You gotta follow that up.
My name is Paul, and my question is, I don't know if you answered this already, but how was it working on the 86 movie?
Well, we actually did a panel yesterday after we did the reading. It was great seeing Judd. It was great sort of reviving that Hot Rod Grimlock connection, the Cub connection, Lionel Stander.
Me Grimlock love Cubs war stories. Tell Grimlock about Petro Rep.
Everything that it was my great honor and privilege to say in that film, it seems like so many memorable lines have stuck with people.
Me Grimlock kick butt. Me Grimlock no kiss hurt me king. Me Grimlock why boy hit my nose.
It was just, they were all like Easter eggs. They were just like delicious things to find. Wally Burr, during the production of the animated feature, just like the episodes, he was a real stickler for, he said if you were in the scene, then you were in the booth for the scene. He knew that ensemble kind of magic that has the potential to happen if you're in the presence of the people that you're in the scene with. You know, Wally Burr, man, did he care. He cared so much that he was a very controlling force as a director, but it touches on other answers, because he had the Bible and the storyboard in front of him. He knew what was going to happen, and he knew intensity levels that you know, he frustrated a lot of actors. But look at the longevity of what we created. There's a reason for that, and all of the things that he insisted on, now all of that frustration and vocal straining has gone away, but the product still exists. So everything he did was right. You know, and there's kind of an X factor in anything that not only is born and exists, but also is lucky enough to find an audience, and then the audience embraces it, and then it's decades later and the audience is still embracing it. I do conventions where they'll do big screen, they'll play a new print of the film. There's popcorn fights in the audience, and everybody's screaming at all the right places and crying in a few places. It's fantastic. I can't tell you how proud I hope I just did of being part of it. You know, it's part of me.
Thank you.
You're the last one. Bring it up the rear here. Make it good.
Hi, my name is Nathaniel.
Hi, Nathaniel.
I'm just curious, as someone who was a voice actor and on the G1 series and has such a connection with those characters, how is it watching Michael Bay films and just like watching Optimus Prime like shoot a human in the back? Just how does that impact you?
I tried to hit on it earlier. There's different audiences, there's different incarnations. What it does, it's grown the franchise into a mainstream, totally recognizable word, but areas where it strayed, it chose to stray. I can't inject myself into the conversation other than, you know, as an audience, I'm as surprised when things like that happen as any other audience member. They're visually spectacular, and they've made some choices that I don't know if they're intentional or unintentional, but they go against what we all have felt over the years. So that's kind of like the only level on which I can address it. Yeah, my pleasure. My pleasure, everybody, everything, the whole deal, this weekend, Botcon at Botcon. I've been fortunate enough to be invited. I'm not sure how many times I'll have to do a final count, but every time is great. I do a lot of conventions around the world that are, including San Diego Comic-Con, which are such a huge pop culture roof that it's different than this. When it's Transformers-centric, which this obviously is, you kind of feel like you know everybody in all the hallways and all the elevators and all the eateries and all the everything. It's a really special phenomenon, which I know Brian and Pete have worked so hard to create and maintain and sustain. And, you know, bless you, bless them, bless us all, and I wish everybody every success, and I wish me continued success, and really nice talking to you. Gregg, everyone.